It's a thirsty Thursday, folks. So here's your man. I'm ready to give it to you. So I hope you're ready for it. We're gonna do it the way we usually do it, but I'm gonna try to stay. I'm gonna try to stay. I'm gonna try to stay. I'm gonna try to stay right here. I'm gonna try not to get too upset tonight. Um, I've been kind of practicing. Oh, let's see. Yeah, I had to revamp myself. Been trying to practice and kind of practicing, and so I could kind of stay on task. And sometimes it's easy, and sometimes this. I guess I get so caught up because A, I care about what I'm saying. I said this before, and B, I want other people to understand the sense of urgency that I feel. And I realize that's never going to be the case. But with that being said, I'm going to say good evening and welcome to the show. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for spending your Thursday nights with me. As always, I'm truly humble that you choose to spend your Thursday nights with me. All the things you could be doing, you choose to be right here getting the word from me. So, my name is Hank Batiste. The name of my show is called Omit the Logic. I got something to say. It must be true. Um, Like I told you last week, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired of being sick and tired. So tonight I'm gonna try to keep on task, even though I'm tired of talking about what I'm talking about. I think we got to take some of the media spin out of it. The one of the reasons I started doing this show, excuse me, dry, dry. I should have got my little taste before I came on air to wet down them vocal cords. But one of the reasons I started doing the show is because I remember the days of the Walter Cronkite news. It was just the facts. It wasn't all of the sensationalism. It wasn't all of the cliffhangers. It wasn't all of this, It wasn't for market shares. It wasn't for selling, razors and pharmaceutical drugs. It was about getting the word to us so that we would know what's happening here in our town, our country, and around the world, abroad. So I started doing this, and on one hand, I feel like I don't owe anyone an explanation. But on the other hand, I feel that I have to try to keep my emotions in check to give you my best effort and get the word out to you in a timely manner. I try to keep my shows around 30 minutes. So, to be honest, the thing that makes this show unique is my passion. My passion for doing this, my passion for doing this is really what gets me up in the mornings, and especially on Thursdays. By Friday, I am so totally drained with the research and all prepping for the show and writing and rewriting the show. And sometimes I just go off script and that's my passion, that's my emotion. So on one hand, I feel like I owe you an explanation because I need to get as much said and as little time as possible. On the other hand, what makes my show unique, and I'm saying this one more time, is the fact that I believe in what I'm saying. I'm not trying to sell razors or drugs. So, with that being said, again, welcome to the show. Um, Omit the logic. This shit makes no sense. Let's get right to it. Now, for the matters at hand. Tonight, we're going to talk about shit that our country should already be done with. These things should already be in our rearview mirror. The perpetual war. Perpetual means ongoing, never ending war in Afghanistan. And this Charlie Foxtrot, a clusterfuck, that we call COVID, Corona, Delta variant, and so on and so on and so on. I say these things should be in our rearview mirror because if we stayed on task, then it would make sense. But such as politics and such as people, anytime you get more than two people in the room, really more than one person in the room, you're going to have differences of opinions and things are going to fall by the wayside. So I ask you, where does this madness stop? We've been dealing with COVID since Despicable Donnie said it would just magically disappear. Tonight's show is called COVID versus Capitalism in a Military Clusterfuck. I'm Hank Batiste. Let's omit the logic and get this done. On with the show. First up, COVID capitulates to capitalism. I talk about COVID like it's an entity in and of itself, only because it's a force to be reckoned with on one hand. On the other hand, the need for economics has forced COVID to take a back seat, and COVID's not having it. Remember when delusional Donnie's disciples said Corona? He had this one doc, and I think she was a Black woman. I think she was Nigerian. I don't know where she was from, and I really don't want to remember. But he came up with a group of people, doctors or what have you, that said Corona would magically disappear as soon as the temperatures rise and Corona felt a little heat. He wanted to believe that, I believe. Despicable Donnie, yes, delusional and despicable are interchangeable when you talk about Donald Trump because he's a legend in his own mind, and he's despicable because he doesn't care what others have to sacrifice for him to get what he wants. That's all that matters to him. So the two are interchangeable. Donnie and his disciples and the wealthy who saw an increase in their 401ks and in their corporate dividends, they tolerated him and they followed in suit. See, capitalism is based on a laissez-faire system. It's the French word or premise that basically means that the economic gets richer and somehow the market or the country is going to fix itself magically. But basically, this fixing of the market, be it the stock market or inflation or whatever's going on, that fix comes on the back of you and me. The richest 1 to 3% don't see it. They're the ones that usually get the tax breaks, so forth and so on. They give to politicians to preserve what we call a status quo. But ultimately, this market, it corrects itself via what's called the gross domestic product. And that's the money that if we took every dollar that was generated in this country, that's the GDP, a gross domestic product. That's 90% of the hard work we do and about 90% of the residual income that the rich and wealthy see for doing absolutely nothing but contributing to campaigns like Mitch McConnell and Kevin McCarthy and despicable Donald Trump and repugnant Ron DeSantis here in Florida and so forth and so on. When the despicable one, the delusional one ignored Corona and scientists, it mutated. What's funny is the fake news, when they start to reshape the narrative and they put out this fake news that the media machine follows suit with, it became the basis for all the conspiracy theorists. First, at 5G and the towers they were putting up, and then Corona wasn't real, and so forth and so on. So you've heard all of this nonsense. I'm not going to dwell on it. When delusional Donnie's disciples realized that his horrendous management of the coronavirus not only exposed his lack of executive leadership ability, but Corona was the icing on the cake for showing just how unfit, despicable, delusional Donnie Trump was to be president. Meanwhile, Donnie and his minions, those closest to him, were the first to get vaccinated, while telling their constituents, their disciples, that Corona wasn't real. And what gets me, and the reason I say omit the logic, this shit makes no sense. Because you cannot tell me, you cannot look me in my eye and say, do as I say, not as I do. But some of these people, not once, not twice, but over and over, and I'm going to use that word again, perpetually, continue to do what he says or what they say and not protect themselves. So if I see you getting an umbrella, if I see you putting on rain boots, if I see you coming out of the rain, you cannot tell me I don't need an umbrella. Don't worry about it. Your shoes are not going to get wet and you can stay out in the rain. This shit just does not make sense and I'm not going for it. Take a breath. So they were the first to be vaccinated. Meanwhile, I still encounter people who say things like, I'm not getting the vaccine, it's my right, and blah, blah, blah. It's your right to die. But you bring some to me that may not hospitalize me at this point in time, but it may make me sick, or it may cause me to carry something to somebody that I care about. And it may make them sicker because they have what we call these pre-existing conditions. They could have high blood pressure, diabetes, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. They could have immune deficiency illnesses like lupus or like multiple sclerosis or MS. And, so if you choose to drink and you stay your behind home, you can drink yourself into an alcoholic stupor. You can drink so much that you die of alcoholic poisoning. I care not about that. But if you choose to drink and you get behind the wheel of a car, now you are a danger to me. If you choose to follow this nonsense and come out and expose me to something, or you become the petri dish, the host that gives Corona, a COVID, another opportunity to mutate. And they've already gone beyond this Delta variant, a mutation. They're already talking about something called the Gamma variant. So go figure. If you choose to do that, then I have a problem with you because you are a public nuisance. So it should be handled accordingly. The thing that gets me is Biden wants so bad to get a second chance. Instead of just doing the tough job and being a leader and digging in, he's trying to be a senator. You're no longer a senator. It's not necessary for these people to like you. It's not really necessary for them to even work with you. What's necessary is for you to pass legislation or get bills through the House and Senate for the good of the many, not the few. So 600,000 deaths later, Biden takes office, empowered the scientists, and promised to get 100 million shots in the arm, 100 million people vaccinated in his first 100 days. When Biden underpromised and over-delivered, and it looked like he was going to get 200 million people, or he was closing in on that 70% of what we call herd immunity, the Trumpublicans, Despicable Donnie and his disciples, pushed to open the country. Suddenly, all of these Republican governors was talking about the government needs to be open and they needed economics and blase, 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 blase. And Biden took a knee. He capitulated. He wanted to be everyone's president so badly. You are everyone's president, whether they like you, whether they go along with you or not. And it's one of the things that made Despicable Delusional Donnie successful. He did not care what others thought of him. He pushed what he thought he wanted to do for the good of himself. So why not push legislation for the good of the country, for all of us? That's what you should be focusing on. My Creole powers told you that COVID would do what viruses do and mutate. Truth be told, I waited until the 11th hour. I waited until almost the last minute, just before the country opened up to get my shot. A, because I wanted to get as much information as I could. B, I wanted to protect myself once I walked out because I knew once I started to encounter the masses, this would be done on a honor system. Anybody that spreads a lie knowing that it's a lie has no honor. So how can you trust them to tell the truth? I decided against the Pfizer. If you remember, I told you of the three companies, Pfizer was the one that I despised most because I saw Pfizer as being one of the drug companies that is totally motivated by the bottom line of what we call capitalism. So I saw Pfizer doing just what Pfizer did, being the first company to push this country for booster shots. They're not giving this stuff away. The government is giving them a blank check to get these shots in the arm. I said what I said. And anytime I make one of those predictions, I always preface it with, I hope that I'm wrong. Moving on. Afghanistan, the Afghan war. To add insult to injury, when Delusional Donnie, in his truest Mussolini fascist impression, when he had no idea what to do with the Middle East, he dropped a couple bombs and then he just let things start to go any way they wanted. There was no longer a bin Laden straw for him to put in his hat. So here's your plan. Here's your history plan. Let me take that back. Here's my plan for your history lesson tonight. Let's talk about Afghanistan. The Russians invaded Afghanistan back in 1979. They failed miserably. That terrain, with all of its tunnels and all of its There's too many places to hide. It reminds me of back in the 70s when the Black Panthers took on the New Orleans police force, and people would disappear into the Desire Housing Project. But it's not just a desire. It's hard for me to beat you in your neighborhood because you know the best hiding places. You know how to get in, you know how to get out without being seen. So when our arrogant war hawks decided that we would go into Afghanistan, it wasn't just about finding a bin Laden or the war on terror. It was to one up Russia. It was to say we could do something that you could not do. We did something that you failed miserably at. When we were drawn into the Afghan war, and it was a continuation of this so called war on terror, I said it would be another Vietnam and it would end badly. My Creole powers forecasted that our downfall would be our American arrogance. We are so used to going into people's backyard under the guise of spreading democracy. Part of the problem was the Trump administration. He didn't know what the hell he was doing. Be- I call it his administration because I refuse to call it a presidency. He didn't know what he was doing. This so-called presidency exposed everything about him. But more importantly, it exposed to the world our own problems with our democracy in our republic here domestically, here in our own country. It was the first time I traveled out of the country and somebody said, "How could you guys vote him president?" And I just put my head down. And then somebody else said it, and somebody else said it, and somebody else said it. And I wasn't going to get into a pissing contest. Well, look at your country, you're in a third world country. And no, because it was true. Everything they was saying was true. So now we got this quagmire, this Charlie Foxtrot, this clusterfuck. The diplomats are talking about they saw a month ago of the ensuing chaos. If you saw a month ago, then you should have started getting your ass out of there. So now they figured if they stayed around, here's the arrogance of a diplomat. As long as I'm here, then American troops are going to be here to protect me. And in turn, protect the Afghani citizens. Folks, we've been fighting this so called war on terror for 20 years. My son fought, and now I've got a grandson about to go into the military. So we've got sons and daughters fighting the same wars all around these little skirmishes in Kabul and Rahati and all these places in these different hills where one hill looks like another hill. 20 years since 9/11/2001, almost 20 years, we've been fighting. Though we paid a heavy price, we were successful in Iraq. Then the war shifted to Afghanistan. Then Al Qaeda became the Taliban, and our arrogant war hawks saw an opportunity to outdo the Russians. Like it or not, it seems that the only people that want to fight in Afghanistan is the Taliban. We spent trillions of dollars giving them supplies, helping to build up the infrastructure, and, and training their army, giving them weapons. At what point do you fight to bully yourself? At what point do you fight for your own freedom? I'm in total agreement. It's time to come out of there. So if the freaking diplomats want to hang around and they think that their lives are going to sacrifice more young men and women, then so be it. You made a choice for yourself. But at some point, we have to say enough is enough. If you don't fight your own fight, if your president runs, if your armies don't think enough of its own people to defend their freedom, the lives of your children, your wife, and your family, then why the hell should we continue? And I know it's going to be unpopular, but I said what I said, and I'm saying it again. 20 years is more than enough time. If you can't fight for yourself, then I don't care what the media says. I don't care what the bleeding hearts say. And God forgive me. I believe in God. But there was a time when David had to stand up and fight Goliath. So if David could fight a giant, you damn sure can pick up a rifle and fight the Taliban. You know where they live. You know where they stay. You know where their camps are more so than I. If you're working as an interpreter and you're telling me as a U.S. Marine they're behind a big rock, then you should take a damn M16 or a damn M60 and go behind the big rock and kill him your god darn self. It's time to withdraw the troops. Our sons and our daughters have paid a heavy price, the same price their mothers and fathers paid. Enough is enough is enough. If you're not willing to fight for your own country, then why should we continue to give up our lives, our freedom, especially when we've got enough problems here domestically to deal with? We still got young Black men who are being assaulted. You still got young Black men and young Black women who are disappearing. We still got young Black men and young brown men and young brown women and young Black and women of all colors still being kidnapped and sold into slavery as sex slaves. We've got enough problems domestically to deal with. And the excuse is, if we pull out, we're just going to create the next wave of Taliban. Being there didn't stop people from joining the Taliban. Being there didn't make anyone say, I see how you're fighting. I learned from you. See, I had a big brother, and I talked about this. All of us, we had big brothers, and our big brothers used to take us to the park. My brother said, he hit you, you better beat his ass. My mother would say, don't you come in this house crying, talking about somebody hit you. I'm going to tear that butt up. She didn't say butt. That's how you learn to fight your own battles. So if I can't teach a grown ass man to fight, all I've done is enable him and his daughters and his wife. The first time you cut off one of my friends or my cousins or my brother's head, I would have beheaded you, your mama, your daddy. It would have been like friends and family. I'd have look, I'd have sought out everybody that was related to you. And if other people didn't want to help me fight, I'd have turned on their ass too. It's time to get out of there. Two things we talked about tonight, folks. COVID, the next shutdown. I said this before, I'm going to say it again. The next shutdown is not going to be government imposed. If so, it's going to be a heavy price we pay beforehand. So start stacking your acorns and plan for the winter. Because as it starts to get cold, this Delta variant, this COVID, this virus is going to mutate again. That's all I got for you tonight, folks. As always, I urge you, I don't know how much longer they're going to let me talk the shit the way I like to talk my shit. So I urge you to go to my YouTube, sign up, subscribe, click the bell so that you know when I'm going to be online. Give me a thumbs up. Tell me what you like about the show. Tell me what resonated with you. And then share it. If you can share a TikTok of some fool dressed up like a woman shouting and acting a fool, then you can share something that makes some sense, that somebody is going to profit from. I'm not saying it just has to be my show. I'm saying share something positive. Sharing a prayer is good, but we have to think what we can do to make it better right here on earth for ourselves, our children, and our grandchildren. So go to my YouTube, subscribe, click the bell, give me a thumbs up, give me some encouraging words, tell me. As always important, I'll see you next week. Same Baptiste time, same Baptiste place right here. And as always important, I wish you love. I wish you peace. Have Grace. I'm out of here. Good night. 5, 4, 3, 2.